Shalom, Hebrews. Shalom to the Israelite brotherhood family. You know, Hebrews, we family, and how we are not friends. Even though some of us ain't met and seen each other personally, how we are family. You know, everybody from the transatlantic slave trade gonna be Israelites. And those Israelites can trace their heritage back to prophet Israel, Jacob, his sons, and how we Israelites are their descendants. You know, I'm going to show this in this video. You know, this is some exercise. Got to stay exercising, and keeping your mind sharp. And that's what the Israelite brotherhood do. And I pray that this message that I deliver to the Israelite brotherhood family, that y'all go deliver this message to other Israelites and then show them where the light at also. Alright, Hebrews, how was the Israelite nation to live on the promised land when the army went into Africa during the Babylonian wars? Means the promised land was up for grabs. Okay, who got control of the promised land? We know a bunch of nations settled in the promised land after we was driven out. Some Israelites don't think that all the Israelites were driven out into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and especially the army. Some Israelites think that the northern tribe, that 10 tribes was taken during Assyrian times, and how that they went all over the world. You know, I constantly explain and how all the people around the world got a piece of the Israelite heritage off that 10 lost tribe myth, and I'm also show that that's wrong. But what I want to show is how the Israelite army, the defenders of the promised land, Yah's army, Almighty Yah's army, went into Africa. Now that's why come some of us, you know, Israelites, you know, kind of what they call, you know, they give it a misnomer for a thuggish, but in the, you know what I'm saying, and the Tanakh is called valiant means of war. You know what I'm saying? And that's like our youth is misdirected. You know what I'm saying? And how did they, you know, got the spirit of the Israelite army and don't know it, you know, and how that when them Israelites start to come into their heritage, then they gon', you know, start to understand our purpose as, you know, Almighty Yah's people in this army. But this what I want to explain. How was the Israelite nation to live on the promised land during the BC days, or even in ancient days? That's like now. Ain't no land on the face of this earth not held down by an army. Every land, man, I'm talking about if you pull up anywhere on planet Earth and start walking around, an army gonna come out to meet you, or somebody that represent the army on these lands all around the earth. You ain't finna walk around in America and don't see presence of an army. You ain't finna be in Mexico and you don't see presence of an army. You ain't finna be in South America and you don't see presence of an army, even in these little islands. You ain't finna sail up or roll your boat up to Nail Island and you don't see an army step out to meet you. And it is all over, even in Africa. They ain't even hardly got no guns. Man, they'll come out with some spears. But an army is finna come out to meet you, or somebody to represent the armed forces of that nation when you cross into their borders. Ain't no nation on the face of this earth secure without an army. Man, I'm talking about the smallest nation got an army. Somebody gonna defend that land. Somebody gonna defend that land. All around the world, somebody gonna defend their land. You know what I'm saying? You ain't finna pull up to somewhere in the coldest region, in the Arctic, and start moving around in some army, miss some Eskimos or somebody don't come out to meet you with some guns and everything. Especially when you go over into folks' borders. Okay. How was the Israelite nation to live, you know what I'm saying? How was the Israelite peoples to live on the promised land when the army went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. I'm talking about the people that would defend the land. They went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion. And this, the coldest, strangest thing is that the Egyptians allowed another army to come into their land. Yeah, so, something terrible went down for Egypt to allow us to come into their land, even though it was prophecy. But all it was is that Egypt was completing the coup d'etat over our head from the seed that was planted in Joseph days. You know what I'm saying? The prophet Joseph days, when he sojourned in Egypt, and how the Pharaoh of his time gave him the priest's daughter. Now, out of all the women in Egypt that Joseph probably could have had, he was given the priest's daughter, and the priest's daughter, Potiphar's daughter Asenath, had two sons by Joseph. And then, the tribe of Ephraim would keep a strong connection with the Egyptians. And then in our last days on the promised land, they would kill King Josiah, this Egyptian right here, and then allow the Israelites to go into Africa, the army, to worship the Egyptian religion. This Pharaoh right here called Necho, you know what I'm saying? He installed Jehoiakim, King Josiah's sons, and they was in control of the army, and then the Babylonians, Ashkenazi, would come in, and then Egypt opened its borders to the Israelite army, and that would leave the promised land defenseless from then on out. From then on out, from the Babylonian wars, we never had control of the promised land. And then how that you can only get control of a land is through a standing army. That's like when Almighty Yah called us out of Egypt. Meaning, he didn't call us out of Egypt to to go play with the Canaanite tribes. With the Canaanite tribes, Almighty Yah calls an army to come out of Egypt, and how we assembled into an army with banners and so forth, and then how we start to go take over the promised land. But how it was an army. It was an army doing it. It was an army doing it. Okay, during the Babylonian Wars, something like 800 years later from our Exodus, and how the Israelite nation went into Africa with the army too. Man, the army too. Man, and I'm going to show this. And then I want to start from the beginning and showing how the army was tricked into Africa, and how we as a people was tricked into Africa. You go to let's go to Genesis. We're gonna go to Genesis, and then we're gonna go to I think that's Genesis 42, and then we're gonna see what was said, and how Joseph. Now that'd be Genesis 46, and how Joseph come out of Egypt, and how we come out of Egypt with, a standing army, but how Joseph was given the priest of On daughter. The priest of On daughter. And if you go to Genesis 41, 45, and you'll see, and Pharaoh called Joseph name Zaphaniah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out all over Egypt. And Joseph gonna have two sons. And unto Joseph were born two sons. But before the years of the famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, born to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yah said, he had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the Second called he Ephraim, for he had caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So, Ephraim gonna be the youngest, and then as I explained in countless videos, how Joseph, the oldest son, Manasseh gonna probably be kicking it with Joseph. His firstborn, your firstborn, man, you gonna be keeping him with you and trying to show him the way. And then the secondborn, how Ephraim is gonna probably be kicking it with his mama and his granddaddy, the priest of On, probably gonna get a hold to him and then have some influence on him, because as you can see throughout Tanakh history, that the tribe of Ephraim kept an association with the Egyptians. And I can show this easily, from it's like after our Exodus, and then maybe 600 years later, you can see that the tribe of Ephraim is still associating with the Egyptians, as well as I could show that during Solomon's time, when he was after one of the Israelites, how one of the Israelites from the tribe of Ephraim, Jeroboam, ran into Egypt. So, the tribe of Ephraim kept a connection with the Egyptians, which would, cause our downfall. And then how the Egyptians would open their borders to the Israelite army. And the Israelite army would go into Africa and disappear off the channels of history. And I say that us Israelites from the transatlantic slave trade are those Israelites, the army that ran into Africa. That's why come Almighty Yah still call us his army, because we are the Israelites that, that brung destruction on the Canaanites, but then we ran off into Africa in completing the job, but we still Yah's army. But if you look at Hosea, this is 12, you're going to see that the tribe of Ephraim still kept in connection with the Assyrians. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. He daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant. Look, they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into where? Into Egypt. So the tribe of Ephraim kept an association with the Egyptians. And you can look, and we can go see the timeline of this book, when this book was wrote. And he gonna tell you about the times then, and this is Hosea 753 BC. And he's dealing with the tribes of Israel, mostly about Ephraim association with the Egyptians. Alright. Now look here. Let's go and see some more dirt that the Egyptians did. That's like if any Israelite still believe in Egyptian philosophy and religion and culture. Oh man, you got to be mad, because it was the Egyptian culture that enslaved us. And that's one of the reasons why the people that is associated with our heritage, they got control of our heritage, worship Egyptian images and philosophy and culture and so forth, because that's where their power gonna come from. Their power gonna come from the Egyptian culture that doomed us Israelites. So if they control the Egyptian culture and promote it in a way that we Israelites accept it, then we still doomed as in the past, that when we associated with the Israelites associated with the Egyptian religion. Alright, so let's go to let's see some more about the dirty Egyptians, the dirty, evil, wicked Egyptians, and how did they trick Solomon. Solomon was tricked by the Egyptians too. I believe he was tricked first, because Solomon had a wife by the Egyptians, by one of the pharaohs, and then that would cause us Israelites to sin. And then once that happened, Solomon sinned. Man, it kept the ball rolling. Man, the ball stayed rolling. You know what I'm saying? Man, the sin ball stayed bouncing in the land, and how we played it all the time till we was driven out. And then, like I say, that the land can't be protected and it'll be up for grabs if the Israelite army it is disposed of, and how that happened during the Babylonian wars. All right, look, you see Ephraim. Now, Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and Ephrathite, those are like the tribe of Ephraim mixed with a little Judah. You know, the Ephraimites that moved into Judah land is going to be mostly Ephraimite males that married Judite females. When you see that Ephrathite right there, or the Ephrathite tribes are people that is associated with that. So it's going to be mostly the tribe of Ephraim males that lived in Judah's territory and took on some of them Judite women and so forth. And then that you can kind of see that the tribe of Ephraim heritage overlaps like with Judah. You see how Ephraim right there, Benjamin and Judah and so forth. Man, I had did a video, man, about them Israelites that got turned out by the Amorite culture, and then that's where their gayness come from, and how that their brother was in these territories, and how he was going to Bethlehem, Ephraim, Mount Ephraim, and so forth on his journey back from Judah from getting his woman that was wild and stuff, But you see the tribe of Ephraim right there and the Judites right there. All right. So this Jeroboam was from the tribe of Ephraim. He was an Ephrathite, so his mama and them gonna be probably got some Judite in her. But how the males gonna be from the tribe of Ephraim. All right, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zerudah, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zurah, a widow woman. Even he lifted up his hand against the king. So that's letting us know that she gonna probably have some Judah in her. And you know what I'm saying? So he lifted up his hand against the king. Look, so the Egyptians is gonna be Ephraim, them's descendants, as I showed that Joseph had two sons by an Egyptian. Now, back in the days, they real strong on kindred. Man, they keeping up with who kin to kin, and even if you are distant kindred to some people, man, that they'll still show you some love, like how Prophet Moses was able to escape from the Egyptians and then go hang out, you know what I'm saying, with the Mendonites. Prophet Abraham's children from Cuthra and them, you know what I'm saying, and not, from our mother Sarah, you know what I'm saying, the Hebrew woman. So we see that Solomon sought, therefore, this is 1 Kings 11:40. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shawshank, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So, dude gonna be in Egypt fleeing to his relatives, and that's a bad habit that was established, that the Israelites would run to Africa when something bad break out, as I can show another time where during the Babylonian wars, now this is a prophet, and then Egypt will let all the wicked Israelites run into Egypt. All the wicked Israelites can run into Egypt. You know what I'm saying? If you wicked, Egypt got the door wide open for you. But if you a righteous Israelite, you know what I'm saying? Egypt ain't finna let you run there. And if you did, they gonna turn you over. You know what I'm saying? It was this prophet, man, if I can remember his name, how he was turned over. You know what I'm saying? The Egyptians turned him over. I might have to go back and find it later on, but how the Egyptians turned this prophet over that escaped Jehoiakim, and then how that they brought him back from Egypt when he went off in Egypt. All right, man, I'm gonna read it. You know what I'm saying? This would be Jeremiah 26. And this is Jehoiakim. This is King Josiah's son. And this is gonna be the time during his reign, is when the Israelite army was tricked into Africa and left the promised land defenseless. That Almighty Yah knew in advance is why he allowed the Persians to rescue the little Israelites that was taken to the Mesopotamia area for bondage, and how that the Israelites uh, come back home, and it wasn't no army in the land from then on out. All right, this Israelite uh, uh, prophet, you know, Urijah, that went off into Egypt, and then how did they bring him out? But any other wicked person, you know what I'm saying? That's like Jeroboam was able to go there and stay, as well as a few other individuals that fled off into Egypt. But how a righteous prophet of Almighty Yah, man, the Egyptians was gonna kill him or turn him over to be killed, and how that the Egyptians didn't worship the same creator that we Israelites worship. All right, man, let's look at this right here. All right, this will be Jeremiah 26. In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, came this word from the Elohim, saying, This saith the Elohim, stand in the court of the Elohim house, and speak unto all the cities of Judah, which come to worship in the Elohim's house. All the words that I command thee to speak unto them, diminish not a word. The northern kingdom army was took away. And some of them Israelites then went into Judah, and how did, oh man, it was all messed up. And then how did it wasn't no representation, no monarchs, the kings in the northern kingdom, and how Judah was our last standing army. But how did the kings of Israel during that time can go gather everybody? You know what I'm saying? He can go muster up some people, but Judah's standing army was there. Judah always had a deep army, 100,000 and so forth. All right. If so be thy will, hearken and turn away every man from his evil way, that I may repent me of the evil which I propose to do unto them, because of the evil of their doings. So this is what Almighty I said. This said the Elohim, stand in the court of the house of the Elohim house, and speak unto all the cities of Judah which come to worship in the Elohim's house all the words that I command thee to speak unto them. Diminish not a word. If so be they will hearken and turn every man from his evil way, that I may repent me of the evil which I propose to do unto them, because of the evil of their doings. And they shall say, and thou shalt say unto them, This saith the Elohim, if ye will not hearken unto me to walk in my law, which I have set before you, to hearken to the words of my servants, the prophets, whom I sent unto you, both rising up early and sending them, but ye have not hearkened, then will I make this place like Shiloh, and will make this city a curse to all the nations of the earth. So the priests and the prophets and all the people heard Jeremiah speaking these words in the house of the Elohim. Now it come to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all that the Elohim had commanded him to speak unto all the people, that the priests and the prophets and all the people took him, saying, Thou shalt surely die. We ain't want to be told nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's like them. If an Israelite go tell these wicked Israelites that follow this Amorite, Canaanite culture that we under, that they wicked, and that we need to straighten up and try to get to the law, man, them Israelites will be trying to kill you. You know what I'm saying? It's the same now. You know what I'm saying? As it was then. And we the same Israelites. They got the same mentality that's in the book of Jeremiah during the Babylonian wars that we got now. That's like now, man. Our enemies, man, they can easily trick us into their armies, and how we'll fight for them and defend their oppression over us. We could be tricked like that, and that's how we've been tricked also the whole time, but we still got the same mentality. All right. Now it comes to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all that the Elohim had commanded him to speak unto all the people, that the priests and the prophets, all the people took him, saying, Thou shalt surely die. Why hast thou prophesied in the name of the Elohim, saying, This house shall be like Shiloh, and this city shall be desolate without an inhabitant. And that come to pass. And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the house of the Elohim. When the princes of Judah heard these things, then they came up from the king's house unto the house of the Elohim, and sat down in the entry of the new gate of the Elohim's house. Then spake the priests and the prophets unto the princes and to all the people, saying, This man is worthy to die, for he had prophesied against this city, as ye have heard with your ears. Then spake Jeremiah unto all the princes and to all the people, saying, The Elohim sent me to prophesy against this house and against this city, all the words that ye have heard. Wherefore now amend your ways and your doings, and obey the voice of the Elohim your Yah, and the Elohim will repent him of the evil that he had pronounced against you. As for me, behold, I am in your hands. Do with me as seemeth good, and meet unto you. So Prophet Jeremiah said, hey man, Almighty Yah sent me to tell y'all that this city gonna be without an inhabit. Y'all gonna be driven out and it's gonna be destroyed. Now remember, we gotta stay in the army walking around. We ain't too much worried about nobody running us off because we got an army still in the land. You see what I'm saying? So it's still confidence. It's still confidence. All right. But know ye for certain that if ye put me to death, ye shall surely bring innocent blood upon yourselves and upon this city and upon the inhabitants thereof. For of a truth the Elohim had sent me unto you to speak all these words in your ears. Then said the princes and all the people unto the priests and to the prophets, This man is not worthy to die, for he had spoken to us in the name of the Elohim our Yah. Then rose up certain of the elders of the land and spake all of the assembly and other people, saying, Micah the Mishite the prophesies in the days of Hezekiah king of Judah, and spake all to all of the people Judah, saying, This said the Elohim of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountains of the house as high as the places of the forest. Did Hezekiah king of Judah and all Judah put him at all to death? Did he not fear the Elohim and besought the Elohim, and the Elohim repented him of the evil which he had pronounced against them? This might we procure great evil against our souls. And there was also a man, and then look, and there was also a man that prophesied in the name of the Elohim, Urijah, the son of Shemaiah of Kethrajerham, who prophesied against this city and against this land according to all the words of Jeremiah. And when Jehoiakim the king with all his mighty men, so you see the standing army, the mighty men and all the princes heard his words, the king sought to put him to death. But when Urijah heard it, he was afraid and fled and went into Egypt. Man, he had to flee real fast and had to get to Egypt real close, as I show on videos all the time with the satellite videos. If you look at a satellite video between the promised land and Egypt, and we know that they got these borders from the League of Nations, after they divided Africa up, and that how these borders didn't exist back then. And then you will still see, man, that Egypt is so close to the promised land, man. It's a skip in the hop, man. You take your sandwich and some water and bag of chips. Oh, man, you in Egypt probably before you finish eating it all. You know what I'm saying? Or get hungry again. You know what I'm saying? That's how close Egypt is to the promised land. I should pull the satellite map up, but you know, I encourage everybody to look yourself. Let that be something that you do, is take a satellite, look at the satellite map and see how close the promised land is to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna see, man, that it's real close. So this prophet Urijah, when he took off, man, he was real close to Egypt. And then when he got to Egypt, let's see what them Egyptians did, man. I did a video about this, man, about how the Egyptians had baboons capturing folks. You know, if you was a criminal and on the run, and then the negligees. You know what I'm saying? That's the metages. That's the Egyptian police. You know, the same police that they got now. They did, and how the police function is how they had in Babylon and how they had in Egypt. And the metages will come with some baboons, and then they'll send them after you. You know how the police put the wild dogs on us and stuff like that. Well, the metages will put the baboons on you. All right. And when Joachim the king with all his mighty men and all the princes heard his words, and the king sought to put him to death. But when Urijah heard it, he was afraid and fled and went into Egypt. And Jehoiakim the king sent men into Egypt, namely Elathan, the son of Achabar, and certain men with him into Egypt, and they fetched forth Urijah out of Egypt, and brought him unto Jehoiakim the king, who slew him with the sword and cast his dead body in the graves of the common people. Man, that's messed up. You know what I'm saying? He did a prophet like that, but these, you know what I'm saying, that king would be the king that the Egyptians placed on the throne, and how they took his oldest brother. So the Egyptians, you know what I'm saying, trying to trick us from way back in the days when the Egyptians planted the seed, when they gave Joseph Asenath, the priest of On daughter. And then you see how the tribe of Ephraim kept an association with the Egyptians. Man, that's going to make other Israelites be associating with the Egyptians and think it's cool. And then that's like, you know, when the Egyptian religion was cleaned up during King Josiah, man, we had been on Egyptian religion for 300 years since Jeroboam brung those two institutions out. The golden calf is that Amun Ra. After the cow is that Amun Ra Ptah religion. And then how we Israelites, you know, got our lights put out. You know what I'm saying? Because of that mess. But you see how the Egyptians put him to death. You know what I'm saying? And then let's show how the Northern Kingdom army was taken, and then I'm gonna show how the Egyptians allowed our standing army men to go into Egypt, which would leave the Promised Land defenseless. And then how did they destroyed the covenant? Man, the Egyptians destroyed the covenant. The Egyptians destroyed the covenant, and the people who we abandoned our heritage to, man, kind of like sealed it up. You know what I'm saying? Sealed it closed. All right. If you go to, man, let's go see something about this army. All right, we're gonna go to Second Chronicles 30. Second Chronicles 30. We know now. Let's show back about how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes too, by showing that the Northern Kingdom army was took away. And if you go to Second Chronicles 5, chapter 5, this is in 722 BC when the king of Assyria took the Northern Kingdom army away, and that's gonna be the army that tried to protect the Promised Land, the Northern Kingdom Egyptian religion worship. So the Creator had them removed. You know, it wouldn't make sense to have a Northern Kingdom's army protecting the Promised Land that we supposed to do Almighty Yah's culture, that would get rid of the Egyptian Amorite culture. And how did that army, the Northern Kingdom, would have been protecting the Jeroboam religion that was brung out after Solomon's death. You know, and that's why Almighty Yah allowed them to be taken up. So this was the end of the Northern Kingdom army and the people that could possibly protect the Promised Land. And then I'm gonna show how Judah was tricked out, and then that's the whole army gone. No more peoples, no more armies to protect the Promised Land. And then how the Promised Land was up for grabs, and then how a whole bunch of peoples got it now. All right, if you go to First Chronicles 1:18. Now, First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 18. All right, and it says, the sons of Reuben, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men able to bear a buckler and a sword, and to shoot with bow, skillful in war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. Now, why would the Assyrians want them? Now, we know that it's by the grace of Almighty Yah that the army, the northern army, was taken away. Now this started that 10 lost tribe, but the reason that the northern army was taken away in how that they were find their way back home, and I'm gonna show that, and it's called the satire history, and how that they went in to Africa with everybody else that was trying to get away from the Scythians. But how you see how the Scythians was having it out, was having it out. The Scythians, this gonna be Ashkenaz. It's Ashkenazi whole territory, and then how this is Ashkenazi territory. The Scythians and Ashkenazi is one people, and then how that they was living at the top. This would be up in Caucasus Mountain and all these parts, and how that they, was kicking it in Assyria, and then how after kicking it in Assyria, they start robbing everybody. You know what I'm saying? They start robbing and terrorizing. You know what I'm saying? I got a video, about Ashkenazi. You know what I'm saying? Kicking it, and how his King Midas with Burr, Tudor, and all them. You know what I'm saying? This gentleman right here. And how all them was up in Assyria chilling. You know what I'm saying? And then they start robbing and stuff, Baratuda, that's gonna be, King Midas was his son, and you know what I'm saying, they helped Assyria to destroy the Elamites in Media. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when Prophet Jonah had come there before then, telling the Assyrians to stop kicking it with them folks, because remember, we Israelites, was up there dealing with the Assyrians, so we're gonna be, coming in contact with these beastly peoples. And then that's why when Prophet Jonah come there, you know what I'm saying, and gave them the message. Now remember, the tribe of Ephraim been kicking it with the Assyrians way before the Assyrians come and took the army. And then how history is wrote up wrong. I'm talking about completely wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's like, I assume this was an Israelite asked me about the Grammentian history and so forth, and how I show with clear history that we Israelites, after running into the Sahara by way of Egypt into Lower Egypt, because we was kicking it with the Mishwish Ma tribes. That's gonna be the tribes that Ostrix and the Pharaoh that Solomon married, and also Joseph too. They control Lower Egypt. They are the original founders of the Egyptian dynasties. You know what I'm saying? That control Lower Egypt. Well, they come from the Sahara, and our enemies try not to make no connection. You know what I'm saying? To them with the Israelite heritage. That's like when people go into Egypt and then they look and say, ain't no Israelite history in Egypt. Now, we got to remember that we Israelites did what the Egyptians did, until our Exodus, and then how Almighty Yah gave us a culture to make the distinction, the difference, and then how that we didn't, you know what I'm saying, hold on to that, and that how we always did the Egyptian religion, and then how we was always associated with that. Let me see if I can pull that up. It'd be so much going through my mind. All right, here. Let me just show this. Let me just stay on course, and then I'll try to get that in if possible. All right, so we see the tribe of Reuben, you know what I'm saying, and the tribe of Reuben and the Gad and Manasseh was taken up by the Assyrians. And look, and the Elohim of Israel, this is First Chronicles 1:26. And the Elohim of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul king of Assyria, in the spirit of Tabernacles, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Harbor and Harar, and to the river goes on. All right, so then that's the northern army, being taken away because they couldn't stay on the promised land to protect the Egyptian religion. And then how did we Israelites had an association with the Assyrians anyway, as I've showed with Hosea 12, 12, and then how this was written in 753 BC. This was like 21 years or something like that before the so-called Assyrian captivity went down. And then, as I show in history, how the Assyrians needed our fighters to help them from the Scythians, who they was trying to keep under control. And that's going to be Ashkenazi that was up in the Caucasus Mountain and on around them parts. All right, Ephraim feedeth on wind and followed after the east wind. He daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant, and oil is carried into Egypt. So the tribe of Ephraim had a covenant with the Assyrians, doing trade, going back and forth from Egypt to Assyria. You know what I'm saying? So, that would defeat that 10 lost tribe lie right there. All right, Baratuda and them kicked it in Assyria, and then they started robbing and stuff. But like I said before then, Prophet Jonah went there and told the Israelites that was kicking it in Assyria, them Assyrians to chill, and then how did they put on sackcloth on beasts and stuff, and we know that ain't no beast can cry out to Almighty Yah and put on no sackcloth, that it wouldn't make no sense, and that how that it was this Ashkenazi had got mixed with Cain descendants, and we know Cain was the reptiles, the snakes and stuff that Almighty Yah called, who had went down underground in Turkey in the holes and stuff. We know snakes get down in the holes and crevices and lives in rocks and stuff, and that's what Almighty Yah was referring to with that reptile that tricked our mama Eve, and then how Cain is gonna be a byproduct, you know what I'm saying, the mixing with them folks, the fallen angelic beings. I got videos and history covering all this. All right, so we see that, Prophet Jonah, I would try to get that in real quick. Let me just show that. How Prophet Jonah, man, was there in Assyria, and then how the folks put on sackcloth. You know what I'm saying? And after he had came there, and the word of the Elohim came unto Jonah the second time, saying unto him, arise and go into Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preachings that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Elohim. Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey, and Jonah began to enter into the city in a day's journey, and he cried and said, 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed Yah and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even unto the least of them. Now we know the tribe of Ephraim was kicking it up there, so they gonna get humble, and we know that Hosea was written in 753 BC. All right, many 6 years before then, Prophet Jonah, you know what I'm saying, was there in 760 BC, and that's because Assyria was robbing, and Ephraim them might them started robbing and started kicking it with them folks. You know what I'm saying? And like I got a video showing how the Neo-Assyrian Empire come from the association with us Israelites. All right, so the people start putting on sackcloth. So the people of Nineveh believe Yah and proclaim they fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them, for the word coming to the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne and laid his robe, you know what I'm saying, from him. And this is going to be Usher Dan the third right here. Usher Dan the third. And covered him with sackcloth and set in ashes, and he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by decree of the king, saying, nobles, been, you know what I'm saying, by his nobles, saying that neither man nor beast. So he talking about, you know what I'm saying, them some humans, cause Almighty Yah classified some folks with some legs and arms as beasts and so forth. All right, herd, you know what I'm saying, neither let man nor herd nor beast or flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto Yah. Now, what beast gonna be crying mightily unto Yah? What beast gonna be crying to Almighty Yah? You know what I'm saying? What beast gonna have evil in his hands? Let them turn everyone from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hands. Now, what animal walking around needing some sackcloth and gonna cry out to Almighty Yah that got some violence in his hands? Now that's awful right there. If you run across an animal, man, that can cry out to Almighty Yah and then got some violence in his hands, man, that ain't good. So we know that's talking about some humans. You know what I'm saying? So they put on sackcloth and got humble. And then that's going to be none other than Ashkenazi there. You see how Ashkenazi practice our culture and heritage today and try to call on Almighty Yah. You see what I'm saying? So he done did that before. And then that'll probably make him want to come down into our heritage. But we know that Almighty Yah sent for them, the Chaldeans. And we know that Ashkenazi controlled Chaldea. The Scythian nation been controlled Chaldea, been took it from the Assyrians. And we know that the Assyrians founded Chaldea. All right, let's look that up. We can see that the Assyrians founded Chaldea. Almighty Yah blessed us Israelites, even though we in captivity and we've been cut off from our old heritage, is that we still have our history here. We still have our history here, and we can pick our history up and go through it and put the pieces together. You see, we can go through it and put the pieces together, and that's by the grace of Almighty Yah. All right, so let's see about these Assyrians controlling Chaldea, and then how Chaldea was took from the Assyrians. I know I got that verse somewhere. Just bear with me, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood, and we're going to take control of our heritage with true history. See, if we got true history to go up against the people who we abandon our heritage to history, then our history gonna win out. But because their history created all falseness and myths and lies and so forth. All right, come on. All right, so then if you go to Isaiah chapter 23, and then we get to verse 13. And behold, the land of the Chaldeans. This land was not till the Assyrians founded it for them that dwell in the wilderness. They set up the towers thereof, they raised up the palace thereof, and they brought it to naught. You know, it was brought to ruins by Baratuta and Midas. Midas brought the Assyrian kingdom down, and Midas and them gonna be the beastly peoples that come from, man, them parts that got a Cain strain to them, and they destroyed Assyria. And then come chase us into Africa, our whole army, which would leave the promised land defenseless. All right, so we see how the Assyrians founded Chaldea, and then I showed Ashkenazi association with Assyria. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there it is. All right. So we know that the Northern Kingdom army was took. Let's get back on the Israelite army grind. Look, so we know that the army from the Northern Kingdom was taken. And the Elohim of Yah stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tiglath, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Harbor and Har, and to the river goes on unto this day. So, you know, the Northern Kingdom army over with is destroyed. So the last army to protect the promised land and Almighty Yah law is the tribe of Judah. And then, as I say, that Almighty Yah made a distinction for us not to do the Egyptian religion and culture and how we were supposed to destroy it. And then if you go to, man, I think that's, man, let's see, yes, that's gonna be Leviticus 18. Look, this us leaving Egypt, getting instructions, even though we was, man, brung up in the Egyptian culture. That's like now, if we got free from America and got in the promised land, and how this Israelite issue need to be settled, and it's gonna be settled one of these days, and then how we're gonna speed it up when the Israelite Brotherhood get the H crew. All right. This is Leviticus 18. And the Elohim spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Elohim your Yah. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwell, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring ye, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinance. But the tribe of Ephraim is bringing oil into Egypt. See, that ain't good. That's breaking the covenant right there. That's breaking the covenant right there. And then that would make sense for the Egyptians to want the covenant to be broke. See, look again. And Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind, and he daily increases lies and desolation. And they do make a covenant with the Egyptians, and all is carried into Egypt. See, right there, breaking the covenant. Right there, breaking the covenant. Been breaking the covenant. All right, so the tribe of Ephraim, will be the cause, men of us, losing the covenant, as I showed it. Joseph was tricked by Pharaoh when Pharaoh appointed him a woman. Pharaoh gave him the priest's daughter. The priest probably didn't want, hey man, that's a worship of Yahweh. That's a worship of Yah. I'm not giving my daughter to him. That's probably what Pharaoh, what the priest said, and how Pharaoh probably said, hey man, you ain't got no choice. And then how that they plotted together. And then how that would destroy us. Because if you ain't got no army to protect your borders and to protect your land, as I'm finna show that the Israelite army ran into Egypt, being destroyed. And then how that was the plan from the whole beginning. And how every nation on the face of this earth got an army protecting their borders. You see how the Sephardi and the Ashkenazi, the people who we abandoned our heritage to, got an army to protect the promised land. You see how they got an army, and not only do they have an army, man, they trying to get them some guarantees to keep the land, is that they got nuclear bombs. But we're going to see how Almighty Yah is all powerful and able to defeat they nuclear bombs with the truth. The truth about us being Israelites and how we abandon our heritage to the Sephardi and Ashkenazi groups, it is just like a nuclear bomb. All right, check this out. All right, so we see that Pharaoh and them, been tricking us for a long time. Man, this is how the army, the Israelite army, man, was tricked out. Man, the promised land is doing the Babylonian wars. And then that's what the book of Jeremiah covered. Now, I'm finna show that there wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and how everybody would have ran into Africa. As one verse show that everybody did. And I'm going to knock that verse out real quick, but I'm going to go back over it again. This is everybody going into Africa. If you go to 2 Kings, man, that'll be 2 Kings verse 25. Verse 25. Here it is. And this all the people. And all the people. You see it say, and all the people. And all the people. Both small and great. It ain't even telling you about what tribes they from. It ain't saying the tribe. It said all the people. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose. Look, you see the captains of the armies? Man, that's the army going into Egypt. Came into Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. And we know that that's none other than Ashkenazi. All right, so then if you go to, let's go to Jeremiah. Let's get to it. Let's show how we ran into Africa, the Israelite Army, and then how that if the army ain't there to protect the land, then man, it's over with. Now we know in the book of Jeremiah, it's the last, the end. It's the end for the 99%, and then how that we didn't come out of Africa to be reunited with the exiles that was taken. And then how did these prophets right here, Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, Nehemiah, and Malachi, those prophets are the exiles, the little small percentage, a tenth that was captured during the Babylonian Wars, when everybody, the whole army and everybody ran into Africa. And that how when they come back from the Babylonian captivity by another army freeing them by the Persians, because the Israelite army in the Africa now. So it would take another army to free them, because we couldn't go free them because we ran into Africa. So how was we going to go free our people in Babylon? That didn't happen. And Tanakh history showed that didn't happen. And that how Almighty Yah had been called Cyrus, you know what I'm saying, even by his name, and how his army came and defeated the Babylonians, who held control of Egypt all the way to Mesopotamia. They was even all up in Egypt, and we took off. You know what I'm saying? When we went into Egypt, we went deeper into the Sahara. And like I show in many videos, to how our first derogatory name would be the Gramentians. You know, I prove over and over how our enemies used the Barber history and other Africans to try to cover up the Gramentian history, and how the Gramentians were a confederation of tribes, and how that they didn't call themselves that, and how that's a term coined by the Greeks, and how that they try to pretend that they don't know what the Gramentians call themselves out of all them 1,000 years of living in the Sahara. That the enemy try to say that they don't know what the Gramentians call themselves. The only people in Africa that ain't been named, and then that was named by Greeks way before the other Africans even got their names, and how that those was the Israelites. And then I show how one of the so-called Gramentians, who was an Israelite, was brought to the Americas, which showed that they was capturing Gramentians, and then how did he help them cure smallpox? And then how did, if they caught one Gramentian, that they had a whole ship full of them, as I could prove that no Watusis, no Barbers, no Pygmies, no Ethiopians, no Egyptians, no Congos, none of those folks come to slavery. A whole host of tribes didn't come to slavery. And that how that if you was called Nigerian or Gunyan, it's going to be because you was captured and sold from them points and so forth. And then I also explained in videos how we Israelites couldn't have been in Africa, after the transatlantic slave trade, because how we live and how we function, and that how we would have tore the whole Africa up just being there, thousands of us, and how we would have put a plan together, and then how Africa couldn't have held our sins. The sins that we did in the promised land that's recorded in the Tanakh would have destroyed the whole African continent. That the whole African peoples, everybody on the continent, would have had to been destroyed by Almighty Yah if they was the Israelites. And that how that you can't do the covenant off the promised land. Impossible. That's like I explained in videos how everybody got our heritage all around the world, and how it's false, because you can't do the covenant off the promised land. And then if the Levites and priests ain't here doing their thing on the promised land, then the covenant was broken. And then if the covenant was broken, how the Israelites supposed to be in bondage, painting away in their enemy's land, like we peoples from the transatlantic slave trade has been going through, who are the descendants of the Israelites that ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. Like I say, we didn't come out Africa from doing the Egyptian religion when these peoples, when our peoples come back from Babylon, you know what I'm saying, our Israelite brothers and sisters. And then it showed that they didn't, because if you would read, Jeremiah 40, you know what I'm saying, 41, 42, and 43, you'll see that the whole Israelite nation abandoned the covenant for Egyptian religion. And then this is our army being tricked out the promised land. Look, and it come to pass that when Jeremiah had heard, let me see, and it come to pass when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all the words of the Elohim their Yah, for which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to them, even all these words, then spake Azariah the son of Hosea, and Johan the son of Ker, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Elohim our Yah had not sent thee to say, Go not into Egypt to sojourn. Therefore Barash the son of Ner had set it thee on edge against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that we might be put to death, and carried captives men away to Babylon. So look, so but so Johan the son of Ker and all the captains of the forces. Now this the whole Israelite army going into Africa. So Johan the son of Ker and all the captains of the forces and all the people obeyed not the voice of the Elohim to dwell in the land of Judah. But Johan the son of Ker and all the captains of the forces took all the remain of Judah that were returned from all nations. That's everybody coming back, even from the Syrian empire before Ashkenazi destroyed it. As you can see right here, that prophet Isaiah said this long time ago that it would happen. If you go to Isaiah 19, and in this killing that 10 lost tribe myth by itself. But I'm going to go to King Hezekiah and King Josiah times to show you that the Israelites were there to run into Africa. And like I said, the northern kingdom monarchs and leaders gone, so Almighty Yah ain't got to call them by name. But how you see the name Israel mentioned in the book of Jeremiah, in Ezra and Nehemiah, and how the Israelites was among the captivity that was taken to Babylon. And then I explained how wasn't no standing army no more on the promised land, that how they gonna be defenseless. And then I show you that they lights was put out during the Greek times, and there was even a prophecy from a prophet Isaiah that it would happen. But let's see this here. All right, that's Isaiah 19. All right. Let me see. This is Isaiah 19, verse 23. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Syria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. And in that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessings in the midst of the land, and whom the Elohim of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt my people, and Assyria the works of my hands, and Israel mine inheritance. So, you know, them Israelites would come back from all nations. Man, from all nations, as I just showed that we had a connection with the Assyrians. You know, so the whole army would go into Africa. Look, but Johan the son of Ker and all the captains of the forces took all the remain of Judah that were returned from all nations, whether they had been driven to dwell in the land of Judah. So we all would go into Africa. So they come into the land of Egypt, for they obeyed not the voice of the Elohim. This came they even to Tapanhes. You know, so Prophet Jeremiah will even go in with us. Look, the whole land was empty. This said the Elohim of hosts. Ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah, and behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. That's because these folks right here, come chase us out. Come chase us out. Our whole army went into Africa, meant to do the Egyptian religion. Our whole army went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Now that's messed up that the Israelite army left the promised land. Left the promised land to go into Egypt. And how did we left the promised land vulnerable? That the army wasn't no more Israelite army after this. It wasn't no more Israelite army after this. That's why prophet Jeremiah said this. You know, the covenant was broken and we was driven out. But Almighty Yah said this, that this gonna happen. That this gonna happen. All right, man, if you go to Jeremiah 51, and the portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Elohim of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe. And then this was saying during the Babylonian wars, when the Babylonians then beat us up and then ran us into Africa. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Every nation that done held the Israelites in captivity and done did us wrong, done been destroyed. From Egypt. Egypt is destroyed. Them people that's in Egypt right now today are not the Egyptians. And how did them Edomites came to Egypt from Arabia in the 600s AD and took it over from the Crusaders and the other European nations that held a hold on Egypt and so forth. All right. And with thee will I break in pieces. Let me read this over. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Elohim of hosts is his name, and thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms, and with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee will I also break in pieces man and women, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. And I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces the captain and his rulers. So, you know, we still Almighty Yah army. And then once we come into our Israelite heritage and realize how we got tricked out the promised land, then we're going to come together. It's like Prophet Ezekiel say, his bone with his bone, that bone with the thigh bone, man connected to the other bone, you know, and how Almighty Yah gonna resurrect these dry bones. All right, if you go to Jeremiah 42, this is the whole Israelite nation and the army and everybody being tricked into Egypt, man, to do the Egyptian religion. All right, this is Jeremiah 44. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt and Pethros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, and our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So that's the whole Israelite nation going into Africa, the army being tricked into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. And then if you read 2 Chronicles 30, you're going to see that all the Israelites there during King Hezekiah time, all the Israelites there during King Josiah time, and how we come back from the Assyrian captivity, and how the whole Israelite nation was tricked into Africa, as I show you that verse, that all people small and great went into Egypt, and how that's not naming any tribes and so forth. And this to show you that everybody escaped from the Assyrians way before the Babylonian Empire. And we know that King Hezekiah was dealing at the last part of the Assyrian problems, and then the Babylonians would come into the picture after King Josiah was killed, and that how the Egyptians was behind our whole problems. All right, and Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim of Israel, for they had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation, so they established a decree to make proclamations throughout all Israel from Beersheba even to Dan. And then this is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity. Everybody at home, because it wouldn't make no sense to send a letter from Beersheba to Dan. That's look and see where Beersheba to Dan is. Beersheba to Dan. All right, look, you see Beersheba right there? All the way to Dan. He sent the letter. So everybody at home, and he's going to even tell you that we even escaped the Syrians. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel. Look, throughout all Israel. This is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after the Assyrian captivity. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the kings of Assyria. So he didn't escape. We didn't escape out of the hands of the king of Assyria. And then if you read down, you'll see Asher, Zebulun. He's mentioning the tribes that come to the Passover dinner. And then he even mentioned the strangers that come who would be the Sephardims, who was placed in 722 BC, who we would abandon our heritage to during the Babylonian Wars. But as you see, King Hezekiah mentioned the tribes, and he wrote a letter to all Israel. Well, then let's speed it up to to his great grandson, and his great grandson is King Hezekiah. And then how King Hezekiah had all the tribes there too, and how he cleaned up the Egyptian religion, and all the tribes does not mention during King Hezekiah time. King Josiah's great granddaddy, they gonna be mentioned during King Josiah's time, like the tribe of Simeon and Naphtali. All right, so we see that all the tribes there, and then our next event after King Josiah, because the Egyptians killed him and then put us on Egyptian religion, which would allow our whole army, men, to be chased into Africa to never return, and how we Israelites in the transatlantic slave trade is Almighty Yah's weapon of war, his army. And soon as you Israelites wake up that we are his army and we start coming together, then it's going to be a wrap. Man, it's going to be a wrap on our enemies. So, how was the Israelite nation to live on the promised land when the army went off into Africa during the Babylonian Wars? Means the promised land was up for grabs, and everybody got our heritage. All right, Hebrews, this just a little something for y'all, for you brothers and sisters that stay home, that, try to do the Sabbath. And then that's like another thing, man, the Israelite posted, do I do the high holy days? Hey, how we gonna do all these high holy days and everything in captivity? Now, it's fun to try to do it now. It's fun to try to do the Sabbath. It's fun to try to do the Passover. You know what I'm saying? I find great pleasure in that. But we Israelites have to be honest with ourselves. We in captivity, and then how on the plantation we couldn't do none of this. And then after they freed us, then we start talking about this and that, after getting a whooping and stuff. after getting whippings and chastised by our enemies, now we want to do the old covenant. But how we can't do the old covenant up off the promised land, like our enemies can't do the covenant up off the promised land. You can't do the covenant up off the promised land. And that's why Almighty Yah said this when the Israelite army was chased into Africa. And you know what I'm saying? You go to Jeremiah 31, and then this was said. Behold, the days come, said the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Why would we need a new covenant? Because the old covenant was broken, and then it fell into the hands of the peoples that we were supposed to destroy their culture. Look, behold, the day is come, said the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I have made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Elohim. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, meaning them punishment. Said the Elohim, I will put my law in their inward parts, and I will write it in their hearts, and I will be their Yah, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Elohim, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them. Said the Elohim, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sins no more. So, that's the new covenant gonna be inside us, and how that they ain't gonna be able to get that, but because our heritage was in the book and wrote down last time when we first got it, and how they fell into our enemy's hand. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Much love, family. Spread this message out and get the Israelites to look at the Israelite Brotherhood videos. This history is for us, family, for us to get ourselves together and to get our heritage together. We got to understand what went on in the past and how the Egyptians tricked our army into Africa and how we never came back out. Shalom, Hebrews.